Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, and things adjacent. If it seems like things are just getting weirder and weirder and wronger, then you're not alone. Every day brings a fresh batch of strangeness and horrificness. Climate change news is no different. There's, of course, lots of melting going on. As exhibited, Greenland had an extremely large day of melting. On the 1st of August, Greenland lost 12.5 billion tons of ice in a single day. That should be fairly frightening. The amount of ice collectively lost last Wednesday and Thursday would be enough to cover Florida in almost 5 inches of water. This is on the heels of the heat wave or heat dome that went up and covered Greenland into the Arctic. So I don't know if I'm going to go too deep into this. A lot of people already saw this news, but if you haven't heard, this is what happened a few days ago. In 2012, about 97% of the ice sheet surface underwent some level of melting. That surface melt event did cover more ground than the most recent, but disturbingly, Greenland's highest point, Summit Station, experienced heat greater in both magnitude and duration during the 2019 episode, says Christopher Schumann, glaciologist at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. Friedman explains that this summer's melting event was sparked by the same high-pressure weather system responsible for Europe's record-breaking July heat wave. The burst of hot air, which pushed Greenland's temperatures upward of 15 to 30 degrees above average, has transformed the ice sheet surface from a pristine blanket of white to an ash-colored stretch of land disrupted by pockets of meltwater. Again, this is also following on the news that July was the hottest month globally in recorded data, in recorded history. So this is a non-El Nino year. 2012 was the lowest ice extent we've had. We are, I don't know if we're on record to tie or break that record, but we are very close to where that is now. This is 7 years later, and things have progressed much worse. So somebody linked me. I've got all kinds of weird stuff I want to cover, but not in this particular video. But I wanted to just point out this douchebag, Tony Heller. This is a denialist guy. The title here says more. Hold on one second. Let me refresh this. It says more on the inane attempt to link the 3-day European heat wave to carbon dioxide. And this is a weird video because here's me. I left a comment here. This is a weird video because he starts talking about temperature data in the Midwest. And I'm not going to play any of this video, but first he says, if you go up to these articles here in this Google search, if you read the articles, they don't list the scientists, or if they do, it's the same 5 scientists, Michael Mann and, somebody else. I'm like, so my comment was, no, dude, if you read the articles, which you hear me read these articles every single day, they list the scientists. They quote the science, in the last article, they quoted some scientists, and they're all, it's not the same 5 people. There's many, many people. I can't even think of probably 10 or 20 names, but it's more, definitely more than 5. And it's more in the, of all the scientist names that I've read in my articles, it's so varied and, definitely more than 10, definitely more than 20, more in the range of 30 or 40. And I can't even remember them all because there's so many of them. And Michael Mann is very rare, actually, in these articles. Very rare. He comes up, once every 10 or 15 articles or so. So anyway, so he says, they don't list a scientist's name. He tries to bring up these old temperature, logs. He tries to say that there hasn't been a temperature reading over 100 degrees in the Midwest this year, which may or may not be true. But the problem is that we're having, LA until recently has had a somewhat mild summer, and now we're getting into, a daily very high temperature, but not quite 100 degrees, but every single day in the 90s. But what he doesn't talk about is the fact that, the Arctic Circle is 10 or 15 degrees hotter than, the more southern latitudes. So he doesn't bring up that point. It's just totally cherry picked, completely cherry picked. And so I'm going to leave this video here for you guys to watch. I'll link it and for you to laugh at, but I'll read my comment, which is still here. Surprisingly, I thought it might have been deleted by now. I wrote, "They always tell you who the scientists are, Tony. Maybe ask your readers to read the articles." So here's another thing. This guy there's no links. No links to the graphs that he shows, right? Where did you get your graphs, Tony? So no links to the graphs. So he could have just made those graphs. They could have been from who knows where. Nobody knows where these graphs were made, where he got this information. But I'm not doubting the graphs and the data points. What I'm doubting, or what I'm pointing out, is that he's leaving out so much more information about climate science. That one particular area might be a little cooler this summer, but that doesn't mean that other areas are much, much hotter, or that so many places are experiencing extreme rainfall or extreme drought or extreme wildfires. I also said, the Arctic Circle is on fire with wildfires. So the rest of my comment is, however, you don't rely on your viewers to read for themselves, do you? That's why you don't list any articles or sources below your video. How about where you got your graphs? Maybe list those, no? Maybe don't tell your readers how Alaska and the Arctic Circle are 10 to 15 degrees hotter this year compared to the rest of the country, that permafrost is melting and the wildfires all around the Arctic Circle are out of control. No, oops. Maybe give us a list of the fossil fuel companies funding your YouTube channel. That would be interesting. I'm surprised this is still here. And then the comments are just ridiculous. So no reply, no response, nothing. And then just super weak ass comments. Hey, Granddaddy-O, whatever that means. I took a gander at your channel, BBN. Where did you dredge up void as yin yang? Do you pay him to by the word to fill up your comment section? No, I don't need to do that. Void isn't a frequent commenter, but if you look at the amount of people commenting, there's 30, 40, 50 other people commenting. So there's other people that make a lot of comments. Anyway, so yeah, Void, sorry, man. I'm going to have to, we're going to have to keep the payment on the down low, bro. Or, just chill out for a while because we don't want anybody to notice. So yeah, nothing to say. No response to this video that has no sources, no links. He's just talking about how it's so silly to link this climate change to carbon in the air, but he gives no other data. He's not talking about how the Arctic is melting or Greenland ice sheet is melting. Just total and complete propaganda. Do better, guys. If you're really going to go that far. And then here's an interesting documentary from Climate State. This is from 1984. I'm going to link this. I'm not going to play any of this either, but It's a 30-minute extensive video in 1984 about the dangers of climate change and where we are going. And back then there was a lot of, we don't know what's going to happen. We're not sure, but it could be in the year blah, blah, blue. And now we see 30 years later, almost 30 years later, 25 years later, where how climate change has progressed, and what kind of havoc climate change is doing to the environment just in the last 15 years. What is it? The 5 hottest years have been the last 5. 14 of the hottest last 15 years have been in the last 15 years, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I think I'm going to end this here. Lastly, I just want to talk about, of course, we have these mass shootings going on. And I don't really even know where to begin the conversation on that. I mean, it all ties into, the massive sickness that we have, especially in the massive sickness of mind and spirit that we have in this country. Of course, other countries have serious gun control and have done serious reforms on gun ownership. We cannot do that. The NRA is a very, very powerful lobby. We cannot override the lobbies in this country right now. The corporations and the lobbyists reign supreme. They absolutely control our entire government, the right and the left. We can't do anything about it. We're held hostage. Apparently, we're held hostage. And I just don't know where this is going to end. This also ties into the pharmaceutical industry. Most of the people who do these shootings have some kind of history of taking antidepressants or, mood altering or brain chemical altering drugs for whatever problems that they're experiencing. They all fit an MO of lone shooter, with troubled past, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's just mind boggling, and it's almost, it's hard to dig out from just the avalanche of the shootings themselves and what's causing them. And then you throw in, the domestic terrorism element, the fact that a lot of these people are either Trump supporters or they're just, they have some really wacky ideas. I don't know what to do other than feel overwhelmed and really sorry for the state of our country right now. And it's amazing that we can't seem to figure out a way to do anything about this, but we can't seem to figure out a way to do anything about anything else either. So, I don't know if we really want to do something about climate change, or if we really want Trump to go, or if we really want gun violence to stop, or if we really want, some kind of major change, if we really want the corporations to let go of their power, or we need to, we need to rein in the corporate state. I don't know that voting is going to do it for us. And I know, a lot of you guys, everybody's already there, right there with me. What are we going to have to do? Are we going to have to mass some people on the National Mall, in front of Congress? Or what are we going to have? What are we going to do? We're have to get 1 million people in front of the White House. I mean, that's really what it's going to take, is just massive civil disobedience on such a scale that it cannot be ignored, that it cannot be, you can't arrest everybody. Somebody's going to have to capitulate. And the last time that kind of thing happened, where it wasn't on a Saturday and it wasn't approved and we got a permit for a march. Sorry, that all that shit doesn't do anything. You have to get in the way of business as usual. You have to, really make people uncomfortable. You have to make yourself uncomfortable. I'm talking about peaceful demonstrations right now. I'm not talking about anything else. The last time we had major reforms in this country, or major shifts in consciousness that went all the way up to the seats of power was in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, when people were in the street, when bodies were in the street, willing to get in the way and willing to be arrested and willing to just stop business as usual and get in the way of what was going on in order to make sure that something got changed. That's kind of where I see us at now, only I don't see anybody willing to do that. And right now we just have a lot of social media talking and a lot of hope, pinning a lot of hopes on some presidential candidates. And it's just not going to be enough. We're going to have to get really uncomfortable. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.